Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. These are today's hosts, Lorena, who will be presenting the new updates. Emma's on the call, who most of you might know. Kevin is one of our product consultants who's also going to answer some questions that you might have. And John Downs is our guest speaker. He is an account executive at SalesEye who will cover AI sales insights of that within Sugar. And then for housekeeping, duration and QA, there's going to be a 30-minute session. Use the Q&A for chat box to submit your questions. Ask us anything during Q&A. And for recording, attendees will receive a video recording and presentation slides within 24 hours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So thank you for that introduction, Rachel. I am Lorena, one of the customer success managers here at Provident. And I'm going to cover with you guys today some of the updates to the latest version of Sugar. So just to cover off the agenda, there have been significant improvements to the timeline dashlet. There is a new drag and drop functionality within documents. There is some added flexibility when creating email to cases that I will, show you. There has been a SharePoint and Cloud Drive integration update. And lastly, guided selling enhancements. So that would be, previously known to some of you guys as customer journey. So there have been some significant enhancements to that. Feel free to, drop any questions in the chat. We will do a Q&A after, after the session, after all the updates have been presented, and I will jump right in. So the first update, I think, is one that will be, well received by a lot of our customers, and that is the updates to the timeline dashlet. So the timeline dashlet is, you can now, it's been added to nearly all Sugar modules, and it can be added to custom modules. Any modules with a many-to-one or one-to-many relationship can now be added to the timeline dashlet. And more fields are added to the timeline to easily see updates on records. So you can search, within that timeline dashlet for more precise information. So just to show you, give you a demo and show you where you'd need to go to, set that up. You'll want to go over to your avatar, scroll down to admin. From the admin page, you'll scroll down to Studio. And here you'll see your module. So you'll want to click on the module, that you want to see the timeline for. In this case, I'm going to click Accounts. And once you click in Accounts, you'll find the timeline option here. And this is where you're going to choose the modules that you want to show in the timeline. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and click Contacts. Actually, let's click Cases. Click Save. Let's do that again. Okay, and then from here, you will be able to see in the Accounts module your timeline with all your, all your activity within that dashboard. Another really great update here is that you are able to search within this dashboard. So let's say you want, to look up a particular contact or look up something that might have happened. So you will, put in whatever you're looking for here in the search bar, and that will pull up, any, in this case, we're pulling up the tests that were, done here. So again, you can use this to drill down on what you're looking for within the timeline. It just cuts out a few steps, I suppose, and it's really, really helpful. Next, so there have been some, integrations now to be able to connect to Cloud Drive Dashlet from any dashboard in Sugar. So you're able now to seamlessly, so formerly the Cloud Drive Dashlet functioned solely with individual cloud services like Dropbox, OneDrive, and Google Drive. With this latest update, you have the added advantage of integrating Cloud Drive with SharePoint. Additionally, you're now able to seamlessly integrate DocuSign with Sugar documents, getting rid of a lot of those manual repetitive tasks that were necessary before. You're able to create and anchor fields dynamically and also position them based on keywords. And I just put together a little video here to demonstrate and to show you that in action. So again, SharePoint, you're able to then send to DocuSign more easily, and the documents are there. You will get this presentation at the end of our lunch and learn today. So I know this was a bit quick, but you'll be able to, kind of see it on your own time. It's just to save time today, we decided to pre-record. Another thing that has happened is you can assign roles to recipients using stored names and emails for sending envelopes. And Sugar has also introduced new buttons for quick access. So you can send templates in the dashboard and send a DocuSign right through the sub panel. In short, these changes significantly streamline the process of sending documents to pre-established groups, and just makes the signing procedure a lot more convenient and time efficient. And here are those buttons. There it is, sending to DocuSign. And the buttons should appear here. The next update has to do with guided selling. So again, a lot of our customers would know this previously as the customer journey plugin. And essentially, assignees are now displayed on smart guides, and you can link existing activities, tasks, calls, meetings, to smart guides rather than creating new ones. And that's it for the updates in the latest version. Again, any questions that you might have, please feel free to answer. Please feel free to ask towards the end of the session. We have Kevin, who's our product consultant. We have Emma, who a lot of you are already familiar with, here to help answer any questions that you may have. So no, not loads, but a lot of significant updates to kind of make your lives easier. And again, keeping time efficiency in mind. And with that, I will pass it over to John, who will be doing a presentation on Sales Eye for us today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on the call, guys. Appreciate that. So ultimately, hopefully you can all hear me clearly. I'm going to be covering some functionality that allows us to bring additional data into a Sugar environment. There's a quick slide here that articulates some of the kind of core functionality that you'd expect to see within your Sugar instance. And what we look to do for our organizations is offer really a window into core ERP data. So that could be anything like Microsoft Business Central, could be SAP, it could be Sage, but ultimately there's some key financial or transaction operational data that it can exist outside of Sugar, and Sales Eye would allow an opportunity to have that data directly within a Sugar instance. So in this example, we'd use all of our traditional Sugar modules, but we'd also be allowing you to have access to key data such as what has been selling, what hasn't been selling, and ultimately what we should be selling into our customer base. Hopefully there's a next slide. You can jump to that one for me. Keep going, sorry. Perfect. So in a lot of instances, what we're looking to do is take people on a journey. We're in a position where most of the organizations that we encounter would consider themselves to be in a reactive model when they can go into a platform like a core operational ERP or similar and be able to pull out data, typically in spreadsheets, to understand customer performance or transactional performance. And what we're really interested in doing is creating a proactive culture, being able to set business parameters, rules, alerts, tripwires, notifications, whatever you want to call them, but ultimately to be able to prompt people to changes within a customer. Typically, the customers that see the greatest value in this tend to be in wholesale manufacturing and distribution, where they're managing a large customer base and a large set of products. And they're really interested in being told when certain changes happen within that customer, rather than having to go and interrogate that data themselves. And as we start to understand you and better understand how you transact with your customers, we can start to build out predictive models where we can allow the data to speak to your team, effectively bringing the human into the loop, identifying things that look unusual at a data layer, and then be able to allow your team to validate as to whether that information is relevant or irrelevant. But it's really easy for me to talk about kind of SalesEye conceptually. What I'd like to do, if it's okay, is I'm going to show you some of SalesEye within a Sugar environment. As Lorena's already stated, if people do have questions and it feels relevant to the dialogue, you are more than welcome to interrupt me. I've been doing this for a little while. If not, I'm more than happy to answer questions at the end. But all being well, a screen should swap. And if you can just confirm that you can see my dashboard instead, that would be perfect. Hopefully that should be. I'm still seeing the slides. Fantastic. Hopefully that should be up for you now.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So hopefully you can see a Sugar instance here. I've got my traditional dashlets that we'd expect to see, things like, a pipeline or, looking at my top accounts, etc. And at the top of the page here, we've got a dashlet that's being populated by SalesEye. In this example, this demo data that I'm showing you today happens to be a builder's merchant or a regional building supply organization, of which they operate a large product category into a large customer base. And we're going to use SalesEye from two different views today. One is a holistic view across a whole business so that we can go about understanding things that are going well and aren't going so well across the business, and then also what that looks like at an individual customer view. In this example, I happen to be a builder's merchant that strangely sells a lot of cement and building products. So far, year to date, we've done a lot of product in our bag of Portland cement, and our best-selling customers happen to be DA Blackwell and Donaldson Plant Hire. And this core data is driven from the invoice line information that you would have in your core system. As a business, this organization happens to be going the wrong way. So on a year-on-year comparison, we happen to be sitting on a large deficit, or we're churning as an organization something to the tune of £840,000 year on year. And at the start of this workflow, I'm going to show you how SalesEye can be used to interrogate that data and understand things that could be potential issues within our customer base. We have a core piece of functionality called inquiries, which is effectively the brain of SalesEye. Our ability to go in and ask questions of our data without needing to be analysts. Some of you that are familiar with other visualization tools, things like Power BI and Tableau or Click, might feel familiar, but ultimately I am looking at the same core database that we'd expect to see in our accounts package, things like our customers and the relationships between them. It could be sales by territory, by grouping of products, or individual product line. In this example though, as a business owner, I'm £840,000 down, and the core categories of which I happen to be down trading in happen to be in my building, roofing and plumbing ranges. One of the beauties of SalesEye is that you can interrogate this data, so we can click through and drill into the information to understand some core underlying issues. In this example, if I was down in my building category, I might want to think about how those products have maybe been sold across my depots or my branches, the locations that I operate out of. So I can click on my branch and I can now see the building category and how that has been sold across my locations. In this example, I seem to have an issue in my Manchester area. So I could click on that branch and then I could maybe look at the salespeople that are attributed to that. In this example, we seem to have an issue with my colleague, Darren Franklin. He's the worst performing salesperson in that category, in that area. And I can click on him and look at his customers. Ultimately, he has a real problem with an account called Donaldson Plant Hire. And I could click on those if I wanted to interrogate down to individual line level detail. In this example, that customer happens to be down trading in some of our key products, namely being cement, block, putty and sand. But ultimately, I've taken an £840,000 problem and distilled it into an individual customer with some core product issues. Arguably, a lot of our customers would say that, if one of my key customers has stopped buying a key product or a set of key products, maybe other customers are displaying a similar behavior. And you'll notice at the top here, I've created a breadcrumb trail. The beauty of that is that I can now choose to jump back up the data and ask different questions moving forward. So in this example, we had a product problem. So I could choose to just break down this main category into the individual product lines, hereby enlightening me to the fact that that bag of Castle cement happens to be my worst offending product across the board. And maybe I want to look at all of the customers that have down traded. Not only do I have a problem in this account, Donaldson Plant Hire, but I also have lots of account issues in this product line where customers are down trading. So in this example, what we're really looking to use SalesEye for is a way of being able to ask questions of the data and being able to surface that information within Sugar without me having to leave the ecosystem or, God forbid, find myself in a spreadsheet. It's just a much quicker and easier way of me being able to interrogate and understand our customers and how they're buying our products. Now, moving forwards, we could choose to save these reports down and then they'd automatically update with the new data that would be coming in from our core ERP. But in a lot of instances, this could prompt us to things that we might want to monitor or manage ongoing. And that's where our core functionality around campaigns plays in, because this is our ability really to set safety nets, thresholds, triggers, however you want to term them. But there are things that happen within our customers that we don't necessarily like. It could be that, if we're expecting a regular order, maybe a customer that should be buying every month and they haven't bought so far in a current month, that could be something that I might want to alert my team to, or customers that are short of a target, or customers that aren't buying high value products. Whatever it tends to be, the beauty of the campaign mechanism is that as and when customers offend those criteria, the salespeople can be alerted to them and allowed to take action. So in this example, I've got customers that are buying from one category that don't happen to be buying some subcategory product. There are 418 customers that are on this campaign at the moment. And if I was to go onto the accounts of James and Sons or First Call Painting Services, there would be a flag within my Sugar environment letting me know that there is a core issue that I need to pick up. Talking of an account level, information that like this isn't exclusive to the company as a whole. Every individual customer would have a similar set of insights. So if I was to pivot now and look at an individual customer record, similar as before, I'm going to have some core segmentation information that we'd expect to see. I don't have the fancy new functionality in my Sugar instance that they were sharing today around the timeline, but that could appear on this page too. I can see things like this customer level performance, so how they buy across our core categories of products, what their spend has been so far across the year, how their sales are up and down year on year, maybe how they buy across a basket of products versus market average for the area, or what are the campaigns that this customer happens to be triggering on. In this example, there are customers buying slates and tiles but aren't buying the underlying product. So it's just really about how we can go about surfacing information and then delivering it directly through to a team. And that's pretty much what I was hoping to cover today. Like I said, if there are any questions that anyone wants to ask me about that, I'm more than happy to sit on the call and I can address those as and when I'm asked. Back to you guys.
Great, thank you, John. So we will open up the Q&A session. please feel free to ask any questions that you guys might have. Again, we have some very knowledgeable people, both on Sugar and on Sales AI on the call. So please take advantage of that and ask away.
If you don't have any questions, we do have a few that we received back from the survey form that we sent out for a more conversational dialogue towards the Q&A. So I'll give you a minute or so, but if you don't have any questions, I'll run through and I will Q&A the delightful, lovely Kevin and put him to the test. So no pressure there, Kevin. Okay, so we've got a hand up from Robert Phillip.
Yeah, hi John and everyone. Thank you for that. Just one question on the Sales AI part.
Hello.
Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I got
yeah,
it was
I'm sort of fairly new to some of this, so I'm learning functionality of Sugar at the same time as watching what you've just displayed. But I am very used to Click, and I'm just wondering, for the dashboards that you were showing, where is the data being collected from? Are you redisplaying what's in Sugar, or are you pulling from your other systems into your dashboard to represent the same stuff?
Correct. So in the example that I showed today, I was referencing an external database. So you know, can I quickly ask what type of organization you're from, just so I can make that a little bit more relevant?
Sales organization within selling software.
Right, okay, fine. So we would be looking at your accounting data. So the customers and the invoice line information. Like I said, you might use something like Sage or Intact or NetSuite.
Yeah, we're NetSuite. Yeah, that's
NetSuite.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so we would be referencing the data in NetSuite. So things like, you know, customer credit file data, customer transaction line data. So the invoice history, you've had with that customer down to line level detail. Those are the tables that we'll be referencing, rather than redoing the core functionality that you can complete in Sugar. We're effectively acting as a window into another platform.
Oh, it's just, so I get you. So it's just being displayed within the Sugar CRM, but the data is still being derived from our back end effectively.
Correct. Yeah. So we're pulling from core back office data, and we're allowing you to see that in Sugar through a different visualization. I know there are mechanisms in which you can do that through Sugar, dependent on kind of what professional services you've done as far as to set that up. In a lot of instances, we offer a much quicker and an easier way to get that data into a Sugar environment.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
That's all right. Good question.
Okay, so I'll maybe go through some of the Q&As that we got back from customers ahead of this course. So Kevin, here we go. I have a customer that has said that they'd like to know a little bit more about the data archiver tool. So I'm assuming that they're looking to maybe potentially clean up their storage, or just clean up some of their historic data, etc. Maybe if you could say what your approach would be in order to use the data archiving tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Emma. Yeah, this is one we come across quite a bit. I think particularly since GDPR became so prominent, and holding on to customer data. Obviously, there's some requirements around how long you should be storing data, and the kind of data you're storing, and so on. So the first thing to do is obviously map out the process to say, well, how long do we keep data? When do we archive it? What kind of data do we need to archive? Is it customers? Is it accounts? Is it cases? So that's the first step, is obviously map out what the requirements are. Within Sugar, there is an archiving tool. So if I can share my screen here, I will turn my camera off just in the interest of performance, because it can get quite slow.
Yeah.
So this is obviously just available for administrator users. So we go into our admin section here as normal. And if we look at this section here in the system, we have archive records. This is just a test instance of Sugar, but we would create. First thing we need to do is obviously name our archiver. And then we need to select what module we're looking to archive records from. So let's just say it's accounts. Process type is one of two. We want to archive records or we want to do a hard delete. Again, this depends on your own internal processes, what you're looking to achieve. Archive will obviously keep it in an archive. Hard delete means it's gone forever. If we say archive, we will then select the filters that we want to use to archive data. So we can say that date created is more than, we can say, sorry, not date created, so say date created is, let's say before, just as an example, let's say we want to archive all records on the date created before the 7th of November. We will hit save, and that's going to run automatically to archive any records created before that date. So the idea would be that you set it for a time, say any records older than 6 months, or a year or 2 years, whatever the case may be. That's going to continuously run in the background, and all those records will be archived or deleted depending on what option you pick.
Cool, thank you, Kevin. And when we say archive, so if you're on cloud, for instance, if you was to set it to be archived, it wouldn't necessarily delete the data, therefore it would still hold it within your system, meaning that it doesn't reduce your file storage or your data storage. If you wanted to do that, you'd need to do a hard delete in order to reduce that storage with Sugar's cloud policy. Now, Sarah, I saw a hand up there. Did you have a question?
Sorry, it was an accident. I wanted to do clapping hands.
Oh, okay. No worries. We'll take that. We'll take that. We are nearly approaching past, so we'll just do one more quick question. Let me run through here and get an interesting one. Okay, so Kevin, another scenario here. So how can we leverage more automation within the system? For example, at the moment, we have a sales manager manually allocating leads, which can be quite cumbersome, takes up time. How can we automate this?
Yeah, so the key to any CRM, or one of the keys, is obviously making you do as little or minimum amount of work as possible and let the system do it for you. Okay, so Sugar has a suite of automation tools. It's called Sugar BPM, which stands for Business Process Management. There's 3 tools: it's process email templates, process definitions, and then the actual processes. So one case that you mentioned there, Emma, is obviously the leads, very common one, particularly for sales managers. So firstly, we would go to open, we go to our process definitions module here. These are just demo sample definitions already created. But if we go to create, first thing we need to do is name our test. We need to select our target module similar to our archiver. So we say we want to say leads for the sales manager. We'll leave that disabled for the moment, but we want to save and design. And what this is going to do is bring us into our process definition design tool. Okay, so this is quite daunting when you first look at it in terms of process definitions, but it's quite simple once you get used to it. Okay, so on the top here we have a number of actions or triggers or events that we need to bring into our process definition. Okay, so the first thing that every process definition needs is a trigger or a start event. And what we're saying is a start event that when a new lead is coming into the system, we want that allocated on a round robin basis to the sales team. Okay, so we have our start event. I need to configure my start event now through settings. Our module is pre-selected as we did at the start, and we're going to say applies to new records only, because I want to apply all new records or allocate all new records to the sales team. Okay, if I click on this box here, I can select the criteria that I want this start event to trigger on. We go down to evaluations, field evaluation, and I want to find all leads with a status of new. Status is equal to new, and I hit add. Okay, there's a number, again, just on this quick session, we won't get into too much, but there's a number of different triggers we can put on this. So we can say or lead is manual or is assigned, whatever the case may be. But just to keep it straightforward for this example, we're going to say lead status is new. Next thing I want to do then is drag down an action, because once I've recognized that, okay, I have a new lead here, I now want to allocate this lead to a member of the sales team. Actions have a number of different types. So we have a business rule, assign user, but what we're looking for here in this case is round robin. I right click again into my settings, and then I select a team. So again, we could go into creating teams maybe in a different session, but let's just pretend that the sales team is the test team. I'm going to automatically update the assigned to on the record. I also have an option here to set assigned to by availability. So if I have business hours set in for my sales team to say that, you know, the West Coast of America, they operate these hours, or if Europe, they operate these hours, I can select that the lead only goes to a team that's actually within working hours, okay? But to keep it straightforward, we'll leave that off. And what we're saying here is that when a new lead comes into the system, it's going to recognize it. It's going to automatically allocate them on a round robin basis to the sales team. We have another option here as well. What we can do just to make it even better is that we could make sure that the lead then is assigned to that user. Sorry, the lead status is changed to assigned. So we will go settings, leads. We have all our modules here. We find status, find, and we will end our process then as well. Okay, so there's our 4 events within this process definition. You can see here it's giving me warnings because they're not linked up. So we need to link them up together. Okay, so if I click on the right hand side of each of these buttons, it's hard to get them straight, drives me insane. Now, a tip for process definitions is that each button or each action that you put on these is to name them. So this would be named new lead. We would have action 1 is to assign to round robin. And then we're going to change the lead status to assigned user, and then we're going to end the event. Okay, so if I validate this, I can see I have no issues. So that means that every time a new lead is going to come in, the system's going to recognize it. It's going to allocate it to the sales team on a round robin basis. It's also going to change the status then to assigned, and it's going to terminate the process until a new lead comes in. So that's a basic process definition of how we can save time for sales managers and other users across the business to make sure that stuff is automated and we're not all scrambling around the CRM trying to save time.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Kevin. It's always good to see it working firsthand. I appreciate little clips like that, so hopefully everyone else does. So yeah, that concludes the end of the session, everyone. So I'd like to thank you all for joining. It's been great to have you. Hopefully you've kind of liked the flow, seen some in action process definitions, etc. Hopefully we'll continue some more sessions like this as well. What I will do is just also post in the chat a URL where you can go to see if you haven't got this already. Some people still don't know about it. It's the Sugar Club, so you can go there to see little videos and upcoming feature releases. So we'd probably expect to see Q1 in maybe December time published on that website, so you can see that in advance, which will be pretty nice for you all. And then hopefully the lunch and learn sessions will be even more digestible because you'd have seen it beforehand as well. Cool. So we have run over a little bit, so I shall let you all go. Have 6 minutes back, and we will speak to you all next quarter.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me. See you in a bit, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.